Who would you give Coach of the Year to? Is Shanahan deserving of Coach of the Year, or do you give it to Sirianni? Do you give it to Brian Dable? You give it to McDermott in Buffalo? You give it to Doug Peterson in Jacksonville? You give it to Pete Carroll in Seattle? Who would you give your Coach of the Year vote to?
I'd give it to Pete Carroll. They're supposed
I
to be the
would
worst
too.
team in the league. I'm going to Pete Carroll. They were supposed to be the worst team in the league. What he did there, what he did with Geno Smith, I mean, they're definitely on the rise. They had a great rookie class. I mean, he got a lot of rookies starting and playing well. I thought he did the most with the least. You could also argue Brian Daboll. Daniel Jones was written off. Doug Peterson did a good job. I mean, I feel like anyone that walked into that job that was a little bit competent was going to do well with Trevor Lawrence. And also, like, Nick Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid. Man, you guys have the best teams in the league. So, well, I feel like Kyle will win it because everyone thinks, oh my God, he's winning with his third string quarterback. When frankly, like, it's not that. His third string quarterback happened to be his best quarterback. He's winning with his best quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The story is that he didn't know who his best quarterback was. None of us did. But it's not like, man, next year when Jimmy and Trey Lance come back, Brock's going to the bench. Like, no, this is Brock's team. He's a really good quarterback. No one
I
knew.
wonder at what point I would love to have seen the conversations between Brian Greasy and Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan was a receiver. He knows quarterbacks.
Right.
Greasy was a quarterback. He knows quarterbacks. They both know football. They had to have had multiple meetings or sit downs this summer where they said Purdy looks like the best quarterback. They
Yeah.
have to,
I
but
would
they
have to
just
think so. What
I
do we do?
gotta think that they
Yeah.
looked at each other and said, "Well, this guy's." It was interesting listening to Kyle talk about Purdy. He basically said that, they knew pretty early on in training camp that he was going to make the roster.
Yeah.
It kind of the preseason kind of confirmed everything about Purdy to them.
What's so funny to me, though, is like, let's say the Niners wanted to keep Sudfeld and they wanted to sneak Purdy onto the practice squad. I think they could have. I don't think anyone freaking knew that Brock Purdy was going to do this. And I think that's what makes the story even better.
I mean, could you imagine though if they had lost this player and he
Oh,
had wound up somewhere else? I
oh,
mean, John
oh.
Lynch is probably fired. Okay, experience. 17 of the 23 starters for the Niners have played in the championship game. Only 6 of the Eagles' 23 starters have played in a championship game. Coaching wise, Shanahan and his coaching, he's coached 4 NFC championship games, and obviously he's been to the Super Bowl multiple times. 0 for Sirianni.
It's
I'll
true.
throw it to you. I mean, and I don't know if when you talked to your dad this week, if you guys got into the experience factor, but what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Nothing? Does it mean something? I mean, Brock Purdy doesn't have any experience really in NFL playoff game, but the 49ers do, and Shanahan and his staff do. And they have a lot more playoff experience than the Eagles do with their staff. Is that a factor?
It is a factor. There's a lot of ways to look at it. The way you just laid it out as a positive in the Niners' favor, but you could also look at it as the Niners have a monkey on their back. They haven't gotten over the hump. And if they lose this year, it's just another failure, and it's what defines them. Oh, you couldn't get over the top, right? You couldn't make it get again. So I feel like Philly doesn't have that. Nick Sirianni hasn't lost a big game in his career. Kyle's lost 3. So is it good experience? Is it bad experience? Is it one team is sort of young and naive and doesn't know what could happen if they lose, and the other team is really aware of the scars that they've faced in the past? I don't know. It'll be interesting. You can look at it 2 ways.